What's up, guys? So in this module of the free email marketing course that I am doing in my YouTube channel, I'm going to show you guys how to build out any email ever inside of Klaviyo. In the previous module that I made, I basically showed you guys how to design really professional, high quality designs on Canva. But I didn't show you how to actually build it out inside of Klaviyo because that tutorial was an hour and a half long, right? So in this video, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to do that. So just a quick recap essentially. Last video, I essentially went over how to design literally every single possible element when it comes to an email campaign or a flow. And essentially I showed you guys how to piece it all together. And this was the final product that we kind of ended up with, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is, in this video, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to take it from inside of Canva over to Klaviyo. So jumping into Klaviyo now then, obviously, in order to create an email, you wanna go over to the campaign section, hit create a campaign, select all of the segments that you're targeting, so it kind of looks something like this. So essentially, once you are inside the campaign section and you wanna create an email, you wanna hit create a campaign. For the sake of this, I'm just gonna say free course YT, create gummies demo. We're just gonna name it like this. But of course, you feel free to name your campaigns in whatever way you want. For the type, we wanna make sure to select email and we wanna hit continue. Recipients wise, I'm just gonna tick like agency newsletter. For the sake of this, obviously you might wanna target your VIP customers, etc., etc. This is just like my agency list. By the way, if you want access to some of the highest quality email source, then you gotta sign up to my agency mailing list, which you can do through the sign up page in the description of this video to join my mailing list. Immediately after joining, one of the lead magnets you're gonna receive as like an opt-in bonus is just access to this Figma file with over 250 email templates that we designed as an agency for you to draw inspiration from, as well as resources on how to audit your own Klaviyo accounts and various other resources that I keep up to date on a monthly basis. It's also completely free. Now, once you select all of the segments, let's jump into how to actually build out the email. The first thing you're gonna wanna add is the subject line and the preview text. Sender name, you normally wanna just keep it as the brand name or like the founder name from brand name, right? Reason why you wanna play around with it a little bit is just because add some variation to your emails. So that way it promotes open rates through what we call like pattern breaking when it comes to sending campaigns a lot of the time. Sender email addresses you want to keep pretty much the same across the board all the time. The key thing to know is this domain needs to be the same domain as your branded sending domain. Super important that that's done. And it's also really important that it's not like a Gmail or Hotmail or iCloud, that kind of stuff. Is like a professional domain. Next thing you want to have is, in terms of the designer, I always like to use the drag and drop designer. There are some times where we use the text only, but we never really use any HTML designers to custom code our own emails, simply because I'll be honest, like every time I make a how to build emails or how to design emails video, I always get flamed for it, for us using so many images in the actual email itself. But the truth is, the people that complain to me don't do email marketing at scale, they don't generate 6 million a month for clients, and they just don't really understand how email marketing works and how to manage deliverability. Because the truth is, if we use a lot of images, but we're doing literally everything else right when it comes to deliverability and sender reputation management, it doesn't really matter. That's bottom line what it is. If we compress the images in the right way, like I'm about to show you in this module. So once you're in the template section, I don't like any of the default templates Klaviyo provides, to be honest, because they all kind of suck, because you really want to create templates that are specific to your brand, right? So what I like to do is I always like to hit create a blank email, and you're going to see on the left-hand side there's a bunch of possible blocks, as well as on the right side in the actual builder, they already have some blocks pre-populated for you, right? So the first thing that we're actually gonna do is we're gonna build your first ever email template that you're gonna be able to use again and again every single email. So that way you're not gonna need to create an email from blank templates anymore. So first thing you want to do is customize the footer section by adding in all of your relevant social links. So for me, obviously I use Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, as you are watching this on YouTube. I just put in those links, make sure it's saved, and you're basically good to go. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit the star button next to the block and just say this as social links, right? So in this case, I'm just gonna do my Twitter. I'm gonna remove Facebook and change that over to YouTube. Save that, Instagram, put that in there, and boom, right? You're gonna save the block and name it social links. Just so that in the future, if you ever do need to start from scratch, you can just pull the block and you won't have to configure the links again. In terms of the drag and drop content, you can keep that in there, it's not a problem. The only thing is the logo section, if you've configured your Klaviyo account correctly, this should automatically populate with your logo. However, I never like to use Klaviyo's default way of doing logos because if you see, right here, the logo is actually a PNG file with a transparent background. So what's gonna happen with a black logo like this is that if you're viewing the email on mobile in dark mode, you're essentially gonna see a dark background with a black logo that is like stretched out like crazy. It just looks awful, right? So I'm gonna show you guys how to upload a good logo right now. So you're gonna go over to your design, essentially. So you're gonna go over to your designs in Canva, and what you're essentially gonna do is just click these two elements, make sure to group them together in terms of the logo, and just export them as a selection. So you're gonna hit download selection, and you're gonna use JPEG. It's super important that you use JPEG because not only is JPEG a lossy compression algorithm, meaning that it shrinks the files, but also the quality is still pretty good. And the main thing actually is that JPEG, you're able to export it with transparent backgrounds, and the most important difference is that PNGs, you can export them with transparent backgrounds, whereas JPEG, the background remains. So in this instance, the background will remain white all the time. So we're gonna export this as a JPEG, hit download, and just wait for it to export. Once it's exported, you're gonna go ahead and just hit replace on this, and you're gonna upload the image. So once this is added, you wanna make sure the logo link and padding is set to 0. Just gonna set this to 0. Because you see there's so much like blank space, right? So you're gonna scroll all the way down to the bottom, remove the top padding, remove the bottom padding, and you're gonna remove the left and the right padding as well. Boom, there you go. So now you can see it looks a lot more similar to what we have on the actual design itself within Canva, right? So from here, you're essentially gonna save this as a template by clicking on the top right and just hit save as template, and you're gonna name this like default template, default or something, right? You're gonna hit save template because this is gonna form the basis of every single email that you design going forward. So that way you won't need to export the logo again and that kind of stuff. Oh, the only thing I missed actually is just, I would put in the alt text, bare balanced logo, as in just describe the actual picture itself. So just brand name logo and linking to your homepage. That's very important as well. So that's the only thing I would change. Make sure to save the template. And now we're ready to essentially build out the content itself. Now, let's talk about the various blocks, right? So primarily, I like to always design the text inside of Canva or Figma. That's the platform that my team and I use. But essentially, you're never really gonna wanna have any like dynamic text blocks unless you're gonna use any sort of like personalization variables. The reason why we do that is because, again, there's actually no way to get around this. So in dark mode, what's gonna happen is if you have black text and a white background, what's gonna happen in dark mode is it's gonna turn the background dark and the text white, and sometimes the contrast just doesn't really work very well at all. So that's why we like to design all of our text inside of Figma, and also you're gonna be able to be a lot more maneuverable in terms of the creatives itself. So for example, this section right here, there's no way that we can actually build this natively purely inside of Klaviyo. We have to use some sort of external designer. The only parts where we can build it in Klaviyo is here and here, but honestly, it's just not worth the time like spent in terms of dragging and dropping the blocks, making sure the background and the borders are configured with no padding, etc. Like, it's just too much of a pain in the ass, honestly. And you also can't really do things like this unless you want to change like the CSS code, which not many people actually know how to do, to get like letter spacing completely right, etc. So that's why we do all of our text designs inside of Figma, or in this case, for the sake of this tutorial, it's gonna be inside of Canva. So we never really use text blocks unless we're referring to people's first names, order numbers, etc. but this is like definitely an option that you can use and is made available to you. So the next block is the image block. This is going to be by far the one that we use the most, and I'll come back to this in a second. The next block is essentially a split block. So what's going to happen is it's going to give you two columns, right? You can turn the columns either into an image or text, but essentially how this is going to work is, let's say I wanted to bring this in, right? I'm just going to export this as a selection for demo purposes. What you can do with the split column is literally just upload like an image here, product image here. So you can upload this as a creative and then type in whatever product description that you want to have here. So it could just be, we are very tasty, etc, blah, blah, blah. And we're just going to copy this a few times for the sake of it. So you can see like this is essentially how the blocks work. And of course you can customize the fonts on the text, make them bigger, smaller, really up to you, whatever, right? You can even change the kind of like text alignment and spacing of everything. So that way, you know, you can essentially, this is how the builder works. But you can see it's super, super difficult to get it looking right, especially if you want to add like hyperlinks or something. So if I were to add like google.com, of course, this isn't what we actually would do, but you can see like the link colors look incredibly ugly. You have to then change it into like this in the settings part, the width and all of this stuff. It's so much easier to just design everything outside of Klaviyo and just upload it straight away. There are a few best practices though that I'm gonna show you. The next block that we don't ever really use is buttons. You can try it, but like honestly, it doesn't help with click-through rates. It doesn't help with really deliverability at all. And yeah, honestly, there's literally zero benefits to doing so. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this as well and show you the next bar. So the next bar is the header bar, right? So a lot of brands use this as the top of their emails, which basically links to different sections in your website, right? So it could be, I'm just gonna do google.com for the sake of it, right? Add link. Link 1 is google.com, background. You can see it's like white text, google.com. Link 2, we'll do about us, something like this. 3, we're gonna do contact, right? Some brands, what they do is they use a top bar like this. Obviously you would change the text to be black so that it fits on a white background, but essentially just to quickly navigate to different parts of the website, right? The downside of this is, number one, you're adding more links and giving people more choice, but also actually, if you notice in any of your emails, the clicks that go to these sections don't actually have that high of a conversion rate. So again, I never like to add it because it distracts from the main point of the email itself. The next block that you can add is like a drop shadow block, which you can essentially make the block pop out more. So this is more of a decorative thing. Again, if you're designing everything inside of Canva, Photoshop, Figma, it doesn't really matter. You're not gonna really need this block. So the reason why I'm demoing all of these blocks is just to demystify them. Because I know like when you have so many features, you think you're supposed to use them all, right? But it's not really the case. Social links is literally just what you saw above. And then spaces is literally for spacing, right? The reason why they literally have all of these blocks is just so that you can customize the aesthetics. But again, you can see how adding a spacer in here versus just dragging everything downwards is like so much harder and more time consuming, right? It's simply not worth the effort. Next bar is the horizontal rule, which basically just adds a line. Again, kind of pointless as a feature. Product is quite useful sometimes if you want to display like a product. You basically pull in the product images from your Shopify feed and you're able to then display it. However, again, the way they display it is kind of ugly, right? Not as nice as what we could do with something like this, because again, it's just not really possible to build this exact thing out inside of Klaviyo, because it's not a design software at the end of the day, right? Next thing is tables. Table is sometimes useful in terms of like, what essentially you would do is customize the row and column settings. You can add more rows, more columns, whatever. And in order, and the best use case for this is when you're uploading 2x2 product displays. So what I mean by this is, and we didn't showcase this in the design tutorial, but I do have a ton of examples of this. So for example, like with this jewelry brand right here, right? you can see that style your outfit, shop sophistication, shop vintage, shop rustic. These are all 4 different CTA links, right? So in order to upload this as a 2x2 block, we're gonna then need the table feature inside of Klaviyo. So essentially what we're gonna do is in the table settings, we're gonna make this 2 rows and we're just gonna upload the images into here. So I'm gonna show you exactly how this kind of works with the slice tool right here inside of Figma. So we're just gonna slice this section, for example, right? And pull in another slice of this right here. And I'm gonna shrink this to make sure like everything matches. Boom, there you go. Another slice would be from here to here, and then copy and paste this exact slice, align it. So now that I've sliced everything up, I'm just gonna export it and show you guys exactly what that looks like. So once you select the slice, you export it, and then you're gonna go ahead and upload it to the table with the content sections. So you're just gonna upload image. So now that we've uploaded everything, you're gonna see that between these 2 blocks, there's not really a gap. However, if you look very closely in the border, there's like white bits on the side, right? And that's simply to do with padding. So what you're gonna do is in each of these sections, you're just gonna go to table settings, and then you're gonna remove the padding from the top and bottom, left and right, boom, there you go. So once this is done, if you zoom in now, you should see there's absolutely nothing going on there. So in terms of the only thing left to do here is just to add the relevant CTA links, right? And then add a brief description. So I would always describe it just by adding the product name or whatever copy is in the actual blocks itself. And you can see if I were to go on the preview test section now, you can see that it's basically exactly how we have it inside of the design software, right? Of course, we're gonna do a creatine demo, but I just didn't design this 2x2 block yesterday, so I've made sure to include an own agency example here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this, and we're back to trying out all of the different tables. And we're back to trying out all of the various blocks. So column and section, honestly, it's not really anything that you need to worry about. The only thing that we need to really use is just like the image section. So now when it comes to exporting the emails, the only thing that means that you need to use like a slice tool is when you have a different CTA. So for example, with this section, it could be click here to look at our reviews if there was a CTA button, and that might go to a website like Trustpilot instead of the product page, whereas these CTAs would go to the product page. In that instance, you would export this as a separate block and then upload it inside of Klaviyo. But for this email specifically, honestly, we can export everything, right? So to export everything, you're just gonna hit download, and then you're gonna download it as a JPEG as always. Boom, download. And we're gonna go ahead and upload the image. Because I already have the logo designed, I can actually go ahead and remove this as well. Boom. And we're just gonna drag and drop a logo section inside of here. And we're gonna go ahead and just upload the email that we literally just designed. So again, when we're uploading for our own clients, we slice them up a little bit, use different alt text, include different links, etc. But like, if you're a really, really small brand, the biggest thing that like the most scarce resource that you have right now, and to be honest, at any level, is just time, right? So what I'm showing you essentially is not the best way to do things, but it's like the 80-20 of doing email marketing, right? So you're gonna go ahead and just gonna do alt text 20% off first order with code gummies by, and then link address, you're just gonna put the product page link. Again, always link to either product page or collections page, you're gonna have a much higher conversion rate. With auto, that's fine. Top and bottom padding, make sure this is correctly set to 0, and you're basically good to go, right? You can see the email looks pretty high quality, and if I were to do a preview test, you can see this is what essentially it's gonna look like. And on mobile, this is what it's gonna look like. Pretty good, right? Not bad for like a completely amateur designer like myself, because again, if you guys wanna work with me, I have a team for this. They're able to come up with these level of designs with like really nice layering, shadows, etc. But yeah, that's why I'm also qualified, because me as an amateur designer, if I can come up with something like this, you can too. So That's it for this module of the free course on email marketing. I'm gonna be covering how to do all of the possible flow variations. So do stay subscribed for that because I'm gonna be uploading them over the next coming weeks. And if you're an e-com brand owner that is doing under 20 million a year in revenue, you should really consider booking a call with us because we can absolutely kill it for your email marketing. But in the meantime, feel free to join the newsletter where you're gonna get a ton of free value. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.